Hello, darkness, my old friend. We've come to talk about you again. The serial killer is a timeless antagonist and sometimes even weirder anti-hero. But what makes them so? Is the sheer volume of their ascent into art creating a cliche? How do they evolve? How do we write them for a new and timeless darkness? Is there still resolve to compartmentalize and still write a compelling and convincing serial killer? We will ask these questions of ourselves today. Plus, we look back at an indie connection that plucks off indie books one by one, if they were related to The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Finally, we will see if the panel can relate 20 questions to figure out our host's literary alter ego. So sharpen those knives and get ready to leave a bloody trail in the chat on This Week in Indies with your host, Joe Compton. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good wherever you are. Welcome to December. I can't believe it's already freaking December. And welcome to This Week in Indies. I'm your host, Joe Compton. It's so nice to have you here. And I have a wonderful group of people who are salivating and, got their little fingers going, ready to jump into this thing. I remember a certain somebody when we were creating the agenda for this season's shows, saying that if he didn't host it, he had to be on the panel. So I'm real excited to see him this morning. But I think you guys can all gather who that is. But that being said, I'm really happy to have everybody here that is here to join us and talk about the wonderful world of serial killing, which we do not do only except on the page. All right. I'll put that out there right there. That's the only disclaimer I'm going to give. That's the only trigger warning I'm going to give, because we'll go wherever this needs to go and talk about however this needs to talk about. And to do so, I have my panel here. So let's introduce ourselves. So Anita, start us off.
Hi, I'm Anita Stewart. I write under A.F. Stewart, dark fantasy, horror, little cozy mystery, steampunk, and I do have the disclaimer on my website that I am not a serial killer.
You also have an affinity for true crime shows. You should mention that, because that's relevant to this conversation today too. So, all right, Nikki.
Oh, hi. I'm Nikki Nelson Hicks, and I write a lot of just weird stuff. I have never written, just thinking about this, I've not actually written a serial killer story yet, but I'm a true crime buff. I love the idea of it all, and I'm looking forward to discussing the idea of writing a serial killer, how to make them more into the 21st century, and yada, yada, yada.
Coming to us from the 1930s with her sepia background there, the little noir.
Oh, it's
orange.
It's my lighting. Yes. I can fix this. I can make it.
It's all right. I'm just giving you crap. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. It's kind of cool.
It's my light. So. Yeah.
All right, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie. I run my little book business called Killers and Demons. I do love heavy metal, rock music, and serial killers. So my core series actually is a heavy metal infused serial killer thriller series, and I'm just actually working on book 6 in that right now. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks, Joe.
Awesome. Nice to have you, and thanks for the festive background. We appreciate it. Speaking of festive backgrounds, S.M. Hillman.
I'm S.M. Hillman professionally. Most people just call me Sean. I'm the occasional host of this show. I also host Zero Means You're Dead, our RPG-related thing, and occasionally host Hit the Dice, which is our also other RPG-related thing. And I tend to write a more visceral, violent content. Sometimes it goes into cannibalism and, all those things. So, yeah, right. Glad to be here.
Nice to have you. Thank you for being here. All right, Tiffany.
Hi guys, I'm Tiffany Vega. I write. I'm a multi-genre writer. I'm also the co-owner of Outsider Publishing, and I love writing about serial killers so much that I am working on my master's in forensic psychology.
Awesome.
Awesome. Wow. Cool.
Good,
All
good, good,
right.
good, good.
All right. So let's start this conversation off by talking about what let's define a serial killer, because I think there's a misnomer about what a serial killer is versus what a mass murderer might be, or what a murderer might be, or certain things. So, um, for the most part, the understanding is that a serial killer is a organized, orchestrated killer who has a pattern that kills for a specific purpose and idea. Anybody want to add to that aspect of it, or is that pretty good for this conversation?
The clinical is 2 or more kills that take that are has a certain time apart. So
Okay.
a mass killer is somebody who kills at once, like even if it's from like one point to one point, it's all in the same fashion. A serial killer takes time. They get that urge taken care of. It slowly creeps back up to them until they have to kill them.
Right. Like, for instance, Ed Gein is not a serial killer. He killed 2 people, but he's not a serial killer. Or just 1 person. I always get that mixed up. But he's not a serial killer. And what was that guy? Whitaker, the guy who was on top of the tower?
Mm-hmm.
He's not a serial killer. He's a mass killer. But yeah, like Ted Bundy, serial killer. Took his time. Escalation, goes into stuff. Also, there's 3 types of serial killers. There's process, product, and missionary serial killers. And that gets into why they do the thing. But yeah, people often think just because a person kills a bunch of people, no, not a serial killer. Just be a family annihilator. That's not a serial killer. That's just a guy who likes to, usually a man, who kills his entire family because usually a monetary means. Or because he wants to get rid of them because he's got a side piece. Some women do too, but most women kill through poisoning. And it's usually for insurance, for money.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anyway, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for the purpose of this conversation, for the writing aspect, I think it's important to to emphasize that definition, because I think it's often misinterpreted, and somebody will utilize serial killer in their blurb or their marketing, and it's not really a serial killer that they're talking about, right? So I think that's an important distinction right off the bat for writers to make, is to understand that. I also think that there is a certain emotional component that involves serial killing, and I'm wondering, from your perspectives and how you deal with the emotion or the lack of emotion or lack of empathy. Is that something that you make sure to kind of hone with your killer, or is there something you tap into? How do you deal with that aspect of the serial killer profile?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with whether they're protagonist or antagonist or side-tagonist, right? There's this idea, I think mostly because of Bundy, who was very charismatic, good-looking guy for the '70s, I guess. But he was he was your next door neighbor. He was the guy who would help you if you had a flat. Very charismatic, and yet underneath a monster. But not all serial killers are like that, right? And I think that very much what their role in your story will define how likable your serial killer is. And I think that's something important to think about, because whatever our fascination is with these destructive human beings, we love to love them, and not necessarily make excuses for them, but we love to live in their world. It's very easy when it's not you, right? So
Because it's an id thing. You're able to work out some anger issues without actually hurting anybody. That's something I once heard an actor tell me. He likes playing villains because it's an id thing. He gets to be his highest evil without actually hurting anybody. And also, they usually get the better costumes, so they're usually better dressed. But yeah, they are. Come on. But for me, the way I look at it is, I don't like it when people romanticize the serial killer. Humanize, fine, because if you look again in the past of most people who are historically serial killers, they've had horrific pasts usually, except for Ted Bundy, who had an okay past. He's just an asshole. But like for instance, Ed Kemper, we're going to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, who, although he did terrible things, he's possibly the most, in my opinion, the most sympathetic serial killer. He had a terrible upbringing. So humanizing is, if you're going to write a serial killer character, humanize them, understand, like for instance in Caleb Carr's The Alienist, his serial killer, you understood him, even though at the end when he finally gets killed, you feel so bad for this guy. Even in, oh god, what was it, Manhunter, Silence of the Lambs, you're dealing with that thing. In the book, you feel so bad for this child who eventually became a monster. So humanize, but don't romanticize.
Yeah, for me,
I
it's
think
all about.
SM's, sorry.
I was gonna say it's all about the mask the character wears, because whenever you're writing a serial killer, they're wearing a mask to go out into humanity and behave like a human being, because they've become a monster. Like serial killers are made; they're not born for the most part. I mean, there may be one or two that came out wrong, but mostly they're made. So it's all about creating the mask of the character that they wear to be human for me. And like Nikki said, to humanize that a little bit. So it's like you can humanize how they became the monster, but not the monster himself or herself.
What do you think, Julie?
I was going to say to SM's point, which was really good, it does depend what role your killer's playing. So I write 2 points of view. I write a deep mind dive into both the detective and the serial killer. So my readers actually do empathize with my serial killer because I do a lot of research on particular killers and identify elements. And I focus on the brokenness and what's happened to them. So like in the book that you see here, my Thrash Track book, a lot of people empathized with her because I did actually model it after other killers that had similar type of brain damage, and she literally was 2 people. So to take that mask further, also a good point, she really was 2 people, and she was really struggling. And even got to the point like in the Ted Bundy situation, which a lot of them say the same thing. He really literally did cry out for help because they do identify it as a sickness and a feeling, and that they can't stop. And so in her case, she escalates and can't stop, figures out what's going on, but she can't not be this other person that she's become.
Tiffany, you want to add?
I think Anita was right. It's like wearing a mask. Nobody ever, like hindsight, everybody's like, well, he was such a great person, or she, was such a great nurse. And you don't ever hear, well, besides a few, that they were creepy or that they, had red flags. So it's a matter of keeping that mask on while still portraying that they are a disturbed individual, they're not the typical villain where they can be evil all the time. You have to show that they are human and have, normal emotions, rather they're faking it or rather they truly have like this divide in them, they're just not constantly evil.
I'm wondering if is it better to build into the serial killer element of the killer and show the human side first and kind of slowly build into what kind of monster they are, or is it better to just show the monster right up front and then give the backstory of the human mask or of that? Where would you prefer to write from? I know Julie's answer to this because I've read her books, but
I want to build. I want to build from the human to show it becoming a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
But
depends
what
on
an
the.
interesting question, though, because Joe, like you might have observed, I often do start with the person.
Mhm.
But in my next one, I might be starting from the other side. Although, if there's enough humanity in what's going on while this is happening, then people will be intrigued to find out, oh, there's this dilemma going on in this person's head.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think it's really powerful if you can show the human side and what's happening to them as it progresses.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the story.
Mhm.
It depends on the character. Because, I mean, sometimes you want the monster out from the beginning because the story demands it, and sometimes you want to build the human first and then the monster.
If
Yeah.
you have time to word count. Yeah.
Well, this is true too.
That pesky word count.
Pesky word count. Yeah.
Right?
I like showing the monster first, because I think that's, for me, the most interesting part of it. Showing their method, if there is a method, showing their how they interact before and after. I think is important to kind of establish, again, method or no method, or whatever that's going to be. And you're for the killer, you're putting the reader into their head at their most for the killer, which for the human beings they've extinguished as a low. For the killer, it's their high point, right? This is their high point, right? And we're showing them at their best, as it were, which is really humanity's worst. So I like showing the monster first.
I chuckled when Sean said that because I've read Language of Skeptics, and literally the first the first paragraph of his first story is like, I tend to agree with that because it was very shocking to read that first paragraph of Sean's first story in that book.
I must
And
know
it
now.
worked. It was very effective.
Yeah.
Tiffany, do you have a?
I think it depends on the story and if it's the main character, if it's a antagonist. Like if it's not a dual point of view, I'm going to show the monster first because typically it's probably not their point of view unless they're the main character. So you're going to introduce the monster because it brings the story, with your main character to where it's supposed to be. So, and plus, I just like writing evil people, so probably start with the monster.
I'll start with you.
They're just
I'll start with
fun.
you. I'll start with you on this one, Tiffany. Is it important to have the counter view represented in anything that you're trying to accomplish with the serial killer?
Again, I think it just depends on the story. The book that you have up from the window happens to be about somebody who witnesses somebody kill multiple people, and I don't have a dual point of view in that one. But for like my fantasy with more of the I can play really good with the evil point of views, I like to do multiple point of views. Maybe if I had wrote my debut novel now, I might have done a dual point of view because you can really get into a killer that way.
Mm-hmm.
But with this story, you don't actually know who the killer is. It's kind of like a mystery. So
I'm sure with Julie will nod when I say this, but the book that you see right next to me, I had more people come to me and sympathize with the killer than the detective, and it's like, like they changed the narrative. Like the detective was the bad guy all of a sudden, and it's like. I'm like, okay, if that's how you feel, I worry a little bit about you. I'm going to step away from you for a moment right now, but but
So that just means you write a really great, convincing villain because
wow, I don't know.
the hero of your story. So
But yeah, I mean, I to confess, I'll confess right here, I did that on purpose, but to kind of see if that was the reaction I'd get, but I was kind of hoping it would be the opposite, but that happened, so nothing I can do about it. You can't control how people are going to feel about certain things, but I'm sure you've gotten that too, Julie. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I intentionally did that, but I think in a good way, I did write the human side of the killer. But also, I guess, the detective can be, I have two different detectives in my series, and they can be really broken. And I interview real people, so I see what really goes on, and then I try to emulate that with their permission. And it's not bad necessarily that you show the dark side, because seriously, what happens to these people when they're pulling babies out of a dumpster on Christmas Eve? I mean, like, they're human too, and then they get morphed, and then they get, their darkness comes out. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with my next one, because I'm really pushing the detective to kind of say, screw it, I'm tired of having to follow these rules. But then the killer, she might actually be a little less, I don't know, it's going to be interesting, because she may or may not be less relatable than my other ones. But we'll just see how people react.
How about for everybody else? Does there need to be a duality for you?
It's not necessary. Like with the Killers and Demons series that I wrote, all those stories are from the villain's point of view. So, my serial killer story, the one that I like the best, it's probably the most uncomfortable for the readers to read, is just about a serial killer who just targets kids, first of all, and he just has no redeeming quality at all. I mean, the first scene that you see him is he comes to the supposed aid of a guy being mugged and then beats him to death with a crowbar, just for the fun of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's no redeeming quality in that guy at all, and I just went with it for the entire story and left the ending very ambiguous and very open to give the reader a little bit of, well, maybe it doesn't end badly. So there are things you can do even with an unredeeming storyline to alleviate it a little bit for the reader, but. It just depends on the story, and it depends on the character, really, whether or not. Because, like with the one I'm working on now, the character's going to be very relatable because he's being possessed by a demon until you get to the ending, and then you see some things that are not so relatable, and maybe the demon isn't quite as bad as you think he was, sort of thing with that character. So you get to play with it a lot.
Nikki?
So I'm thinking about some of my stories, and most of my bad guys do what they do for a reason, because all villains are heroes in their own story. But if you're going to deal with a human, you're going to have duality, because we're both light and dark, shadow and light, and all that. So for me, yes, duality of a serial killer. Again, we're back to the humanizing them, unless they're going to be an absolute, otherworldly kind of monster. But no, all serial killers, all humans, in their sense, are just, they're just dual. We are that way. We just are. We're not the most easy sort of species to really get around. We're just kind of nuts. So, yeah, I like a good duality. It's kind of fun.
Jenna puts up this nice little quote here. You wrote that if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into
you, buddy. Which is why you don't become the thing you hunt. Yeah.
Hey, Al,
Hi.
nice to see you. And nice to see you too, Jenna. Your question. I saw your question, Jenna, but this was a question I was going to ask anyway.
Yeah.
But we're going to do that on the other side of the break. We'll talk about the
Okay.
effect on us after the indie connection. But Sean, did you want to chime in on the duality aspect of things?
So what I like is I like juxtaposition in my stories, right? Uh, taking one thing and then kind of like turning it a little bit. But I don't think that showing a serial killer who tips well is necessarily showing their good side, right? It's it's
Yeah,
part of their
that's.
it's part of their behavior, right? It's all part of their behavior, and what it the you know the those serial killers who can move through society without suspicion, are the most dangerous and maybe the most interesting to a certain degree. If we see someone who's a monster all the time, um, that's way less interesting from that specific point of view. They may be interesting in other points of view, right? But from that specific thing, if they're a serial killer and they're a lousy tipper and they kick puppies, it's just like, okay, this is a very bad person. And I think that's a different kind of story, right? I mean, I
Right.
think that's a different kind of antagonist or protagonist, however we look at it. That's a different character than one who's going to make it difficult for the reader and for those pursuing them to bring them to justice.
Are there elements that you have to have for your serial killer to accomplish what they're doing? And what are they?
I think that the ability in the moment, right? So I'm less skeptical, or I should say, I'm very skeptical of people who can kill and then, oh, no, I'm such a terrible person. Because I feel like a lot of that is an act, and maybe it's not. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. Hardly an expert
Or
on,
what on
on
TV?
the on the psychology aspect, maybe on the killing aspect, but I'm not an expert on the psychology. But um, I think it's important for the person in the moment, because killing is such a terrible thing, not as easy as people might think it is, that they're able to flip the switch and go from not killing someone to killing someone in a believable and realistic way. Unless they're possessed by a demon, and then all bets are off, right? That's completely
Yeah.
different.
When you bring the supernatural element, you got a whole different bag of worms to deal with. Yeah. But like Jeffrey Dahmer had to get blackout drunk to do his crimes. So that's what he did. He got blackout drunk because he was a product killer, not a process killer. He didn't like killing people, but he needed the bodies to make his altar of death. So, but yeah.
Even when he ate them?
Yes. Eating them was a part of his ritual. He was a very ritualistic killer. Part of his ritual to bring them. He's a very lonely guy, and for him to kill them is to bring them into his body. He felt that now I have you. Also, he felt that when he met his altar in the afterlife, they were going to be there for him. He was a really, really lonely guy, like Dennis Nielsen. Again, he killed to keep companions, which to me is fascinating. This guy is so lonely, he would bring them home and, hey, listen to this music. And once they listened to the music, that's when he would strangle them and kill them and just keep their bodies until they got too bad, then stuck them in the cupboard.
Jeffrey Dahmer tried to make pretty much a zombie.
Yes,
Where
he wanted a sex zombie. Couldn't get it, but he wanted
he
it.
was so lonely that he was trying to make a companion for himself that would never leave him.
Right.
So
The guy
when
was.
he killed him, it was a piece of them that stayed with him, and he felt like he was closer to them when he did it.
Yes. Very sad. Really, really sad. Very,
Are
very
there
sad.
are there characteristics they have to have for you, Nikki, to write them though?
For me, they have to have a reason. They have to have a reason for what you're doing. If you're just going out and slashy, killy, the Michael Myers crap, which I never truly understood, that to me is boring. I need a reason for why you're doing this. Is this to somehow another, like for instance, you got like an Ed Kemper. He did it because he was pissed at his mom, and his mom was an absolute bitch. I think, quite frankly, if you let him out now, he probably wouldn't kill anybody because he killed his mom. He killed his mom. He did what he wanted to do. He killed a bunch of people before that, but he finally killed his mom. They need to have a reason as to why they're doing it. Like, for instance, Caleb Carr's, the first one he did, The Alienist. Why he killed. And it was all because, he couldn't have an orgasm. It's amazing how many times men have killed because they couldn't orgasm. I don't know what you guys got about that. But that's like the driving force of your life. And if you can't come, you got to kill people. I don't understand it, but it's there. But no, they have to have a reason. For me, there has to be a reason. If there isn't a reason, I'm bored. You're just an animal, and I'm bored now.
Julie, do you have
Did I
some
kill
reason?
stuff? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill things. Go ahead.
No,
You killed the conversation, Nick. You did it again. Okay.
No, actually, Nikki, I think you make a good point. So, I actually have a model of elements that I believe are required to emulate a real serial killer. So I researched a lot of real killers, and then I was fortunate to meet a young woman who, similar to Tiffany, she specifically did a PhD on serial killers and the psychology behind it. So it was really great for me to be able to validate that I had the main elements. And yes, there is a reason. And so things happen in their lives. Sure, a lot of other people go through similar things. They don't react this way. Well, they see people as objects. So they don't actually, they're not killing a human the way we would think we're killing a human. Anyways, I have about 12 elements that I put into my characters to make them believable serial killers. And one of those things is what Nikki was talking about, is something that's happened to them that creates this fantasy that they're trying to recreate, and they're killing over and over. So in Edmund Kemper's case, there was more to it, where he was practicing for his mother, but also he was making these women his spirit wives, as he called them, because he was so uncomfortable on women, and he essentially wanted to be able to have control over the situation. So there were multiple angles to his fantasy, but yeah, I do have elements, and I make sure that they're all there. I do a lot of character development before I start writing the story. So I think that's really important if you want to convey it realistically.
So do you really think the fantasy is really what's really the driving force for most serial killers? Some sort of fantasy they've created and they're now keep going?
Yeah, there's a deep, there's something that's happened in their past that they're trying to recreate, essentially. At least I found that with a lot of the killers I researched and a lot of the reading I did. Like I read a lot of the John Douglas Mindhunter. That was his real life. And so I based on the reading I've done, the things I've watched, and the people that I've researched, it seems to always be present.
Yeah, like with Dennis Rader, all of his stuff was fantasy completely related. I mean, everything he did with his killings were fantasy related. I find that fascinating, that people can't seem to separate reality, fantasy, or maybe their reality so boring or something that they need that fantasy to, even though it's terrible, it's absolutely gruesome, to give some sort of spice to their lives. Something like that?
Well, in this case, I think they're more trying to redo something that they can't let go of. So maybe fantasy isn't the right word. They're trying to redo something.
Yeah, they're acting out their trauma. Only
Yes.
they're doing it badly.
Because I've often thought all writers are people who are either trying to save someone or kill someone over and over and over again. I'm convinced of that. So, yeah, maybe the same thing for serial killers, except they're actually doing it. I would never. Well, I wouldn't kill you unless I absolutely had to. But yeah.
Are there characteristics for you, Anita, that they have to have?
Well, like Nikki said, they have to have a reason. They have to have some sort of a backstory. But it's also the psychological motivation that I need to make it work. I mean, I need to know why they're doing this, like acting out their trauma, acting out their fantasy, things like that. I mean, that's pretty much essential if you're writing a serial killer, I think.
Tiffany, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say that the number one thing is a reason. I don't think that you can write a a true scary serial killer without giving the reason why they're doing it. I would have to disagree, though. I do think Michael Myers is a family annihilator, and that's why he kills.
Maybe that's it. Yes, I didn't even think about the family. I'm always just thinking seeing him
Yeah.
walking. But you're right. He's a family annihilator. That's why he does it. But he didn't do it for money.
That's why he
But
kills.
why?
He's trying to keep the last member. So there has to be a reason. I mean, just having some creepy person going around killing for no reason is just, it's not feasible. I mean, like, yes, there's probably people who are mentally not capable of making a decision and might be, out there doing it. But again, I guess the reason would be that they're not mentally stable. And I think that makes people like me so obsessed with serial killers is because you want to find that reason. What put this person over the edge? What made this person so much different than the normal people and are killing people? What made the Zodiac killer? Like what pushed them to that edge that they did something like that? And that's why I think we keep coming back to serial killers, is because we want to know those reasons.
And what is probably the weirdest and most awkward
segue
of This Week in Indies, we have a reason to take a break, and that is the Indie Connection. We're doing the best of in this season, and just a little story time for you all. About 6 years ago, when we decided to take this show live and do it live, Courtney Cannon came to me with an idea called the Indie Connection. And we've been doing it ever since. So since day one, she's been a part of it. And this is the very, very first Indie Connection for you all to celebrate that aspect of what she does. It is Jim Butcher's Dresden Files. So if you're a fan of that, here's some indie books that you might enjoy. And they are all still available. We checked all the links. They're good. So you can still get all of these books. This is one of the longer Indie Connections too. She hadn't found her footing yet, everybody. So, but this is a great Indie Connection, and we're really happy to show it again. And then we'll be back to talk about ourselves and the effect that writing serial killers has on us personally. All right.
Hey guys, Celia Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you a brand new segment here on Go Indie Now called the Indie Connection. Now, what the Indie Connection is we're going to take one very popular traditional book and we're going to give you comparable titles that are by indie authors or by small press authors. This week, we are going to be comparing indie books to The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I know a lot of people, including myself, love these books. They're full of snarky commentary, some really great action, some paranormal stuff going on, and they're just endearing. A lot of people are fans of them, and we're going to show you a few indie authors that you might like because you like Jim Butcher's Dresden Files series. The first book is called Demon Moon by Brad Magnarella. I hope I said that right. And Demon Moon follows professor of mythology and behind-the-scenes wizard Everson Croft. Something strange is going on in New York City. Amateur casters are calling up creatures they shouldn't have access to, and there's been a murder at the city's most hallowed cathedral. There's a message written in blood on the victim's back that the NYPD wants Croft to translate ASAP. Something big is coming, maybe even the end of the world. There are currently 6 books in the Professor Croft series, so you should definitely go check those out. They have wonderful reviews. And look at that cover. Isn't that cover beautiful? The next comparable book we have is called Cunning Devil by Chris Underwood, and this is from the Lost Falls series. Ozzy is a conjurer, a wizard, someone who looks out for the little guy. Mostly, he finds things. Lost treasure, loved ones, All for a nominal fee, of course. So when a grieving father hires Ozzy to track down a stolen family heirloom, he was happy to help. The trouble was, what started out as a simple search for stolen property ended up being an attempted murder. His. They made a mistake leaving a bullet in his stomach and leaving Ozzy for dead. They didn't bury him deep enough. Isn't that like a chilling blurb? I love that. There are currently 2 books in the Lost Falls series, and again, they have wonderful reviews. They're very quality cover, quality editing, so go check that out. The next book that we have for you is called Too Weird by Sarah Berman, and that is from the Runespell series. Nicola was never a hero. She was an everyday single mother, heathen witch, and herbalist. She was happy with her quiet life until the night Joseph showed up at her door with news that her stepsister joined a cult and she'd gone missing. Pressured by family loyalties, Nicola goes back to Indianapolis, dodging old enemies and calling on old friends to help her find her stepsister. What she finds instead is an ex with superpowers, monsters and demigods on the streets, and a detective ready to bring her in for a murder investigation. Or 3. Can Nicola become the hero she needs to be, or will she lose everyone she cares for? There are currently 2 books in the Runespell series, and book 3 is coming out later this year, and I have to say, I personally recommend this series. I have read the first 2 books, and I find them to be amazing. Brilliant world building, witty dialogue. I think if you are a Dresden fan, you will love this series. Sarah Berman is just, she has a great way with words and a great way with description, and I think you'll love it. And the last book that I have for you is called Dark as the Grave by Peter Dawes. This is the Vampire Flynn series. Flynn is a killer of killers. Rebelling against his vampiric nature, he becomes an assassin and the perfect weapon in the world of warring immortal factions. When Flynn's other powers are awakened, his cold-blooded nature is pitted against the shreds of his humanity that were never completely silenced. His maker wants him under her thrall, building a dark empire. A quixotic sorceress sees the broken pieces of his soul and believes he can become a hero. Until he knows which side of him will win, Flynn must walk a careful line of deception. Anything but complete devotion to his maker may cost him his life. There are currently 5 books in the Vampire Flynn series. They all have great reviews. They have an awesome cover, and I think you should really give them a try. Okay, those were our 4 picks for this week, comparable titles to The Dresden Files. I really hope that you like this new segment, and next week we'll have another comparable title for you and some more indie books that you should check out. Thanks again, I'm C.L. Cannon, and it's always time to go indie now.
Nostalgia is a wonderful thing, isn't it? It's so awesome to see that very first one.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Do you think that segment's gonna last? Do you think people are gonna like that?
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll
see.
Time will tell. Yeah. No, thank you, C.L. Cannon, as always. And go check out those books. Gives everybody an opportunity to relive all of that wonderful magic all over again, and I appreciate it. All right, so there was a question in the chat that Jenna brought up, and was going to be the angle I was going to take anyway. Does this cause you any concern as you write serial killers? Do you have any concern for yourself, or do you going deep sometimes, deep and dark? Do you is there certain things you have to do to kind of cleanse yourself of that darkness?
Nope. Absolutely not. I'm perfectly fine writing serial killers. Have no problem with it. This is why I have a disclaimer on my website, people.
I'm a little more cautious. I'm a little more when I'm out and about. Mm-hmm. I'm very cautious when I walk around downtown. No, I'm very cautious about with people, because you just never know. Supposedly, what is it? Supposedly you might pass a serial killer one in every 100 people. or at least a person who's killed someone or something. You don't know. So I'm just a little bit more cautious. The more I deep dive into different kind of really dark, especially I love a good murder, different murders. Especially, I mean, you didn't even discuss like for women serial killers are a whole different pile of worms than a man serial killer. Like giggling granny Nanny Doss, Belle Guinness. What they did within their own family, especially with Nanny Doss, her family knew what she was doing, and just kind of like, well, you don't let grandma hold the kid for too long. What do you do when you're in a family and you realize that the matriarch of the family is actually a serial killer? So yeah. Anyway, for me, it's just I'm a little bit more cautious around people because I know that everyone has that capacity to do something really heinous if they got pushed too far.
Well, maybe I'm different, but I do have the first time I wrote a deep point of view. So I went in and just wrote that point of view for a while. And my husband actually did ask if I was okay because psychologically I was really trying to emulate what this young man was going through and the torture that he underwent. So now I do have strategies. I do a lot of hiking year round. So going in the forest, meditation, journaling, whatever, but I purge because I'm really writing the psyche deeply and getting close to that character. It's just an observation that maybe I do need to purge after I've been writing, and I don't really have a problem now because I'm aware of it and I definitely do all those things that I need to do. But when I first started doing it, I did have a bit of a challenge.
Don't hikers find a lot of bodies? Do you ever worry about that when you're hiking?
No, because
then. Okay.
The chance. I mean, there have been I do use a lot of forest settings because, for example, like Bundy was putting heads and body parts in many places. So I'm not smiling because it's funny. It's just that I actually do watch a lot of wilderness horror, and yes, there have been bodies in forests and places. But the chance of me finding something is pretty low. I guess it could happen, but I don't think about it when I'm.
I bet no one does. No one goes out hiking. Hope I find a body today. I mean, nobody does that. But can you imagine? That would really ruin a nice day out.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
So I think a couple things. Number one, I'm of the opinion, and I had this discussion with other events where people say that could never be me. I would never do that, and I'm like, it could be you. Don't say that, and here's how it could be you. And maybe the difference is the empathy slider, right? Up here, someone who really never could kill someone. And down here, as your empathy goes towards the negative, it's much more likely that you could, in self-defense, in a moment of anger, to where you feel justified for vengeance, to, and then, at the bottom where it's like, I'm doing it because I want to do it. Or I like to do it, or I think I like to do it. No, I think that much like other aspects, when you're writing hard science fiction, that's a completely different, animal as well. But you're also trying to get at questions you're asking about yourself in the greater universe. When it comes to writing killers, it's fun, obviously, to sort of delve into the dark side. But for me, it has to be intelligent, right? Intelligent writing for myself, because otherwise it just feels gratuitous. And I'm not getting off on what I'm writing, right? I'm writing because I'm exploring these dark elements of the human psyche, using big words, I guess. But I'm also fascinated by what does it take, not just for you to take another human life, but for you to do so in a way that society would find, rightfully so, to be the antithesis of what a good community member is, right? And it's fascinating. To kind of move out of the darkness of my writing, I play video games, which are also very dark. So I'm not sure I ever really escape it. But
Daniel Tosh has a funny bit about how you see people on the news all the time go, I lived next door to him for 20 years, and I could never see him do that. And he goes, really? I could see my mother doing that, okay?
My mom's a serial killer. I love that movie.
He's like, I think every human being's capable of something, you know?
Oh, yes. Very much so.
Tiffany, did you want to
I
talk about your psyche?
That's right. Ooh.
I like live, breathe, eat serial killer information.
I
Like
know.
I fall asleep watching Forensic Files. You know, like I absolutely love true crime shows, and that's what I'll put on to fall asleep. I wake up, I watch it, I write papers on it, I read articles on them, we talk about them in school, and but I am lucky as far as when I write. I am a multiple genre writer, so if I get too stuck into a story, I can go into a different type of story. So I'm not constantly just writing about serial killers, and I can like go from a thriller to a fantasy and take the time I need away to like pin that era. Because when you do write a serial killer, I mean, for me, I really get into the why. What if this happened to me? How would I react? Like try to get into like the actual trauma that is causing them to be the way they are. And that I think is the darkest part. Not the killing. I mean, again, we're all capable of killing if it came to, you know, my life or yours, or my children and yours. It is the reasons why they kill for outside reasons. So, you know, sexual trauma, abuse, watching somebody else get killed, you know, those are the things that take the most strenuous hit in my psyche, you know, because I'm like living that moment with them. Okay, right.
Well, let me start with you. Let me start with you on the next question, which is, I'm curious, how do serial killer stories stay with you a little longer than your normal stories do? Do you find that you're lingering on them a little longer, or that you're thinking about them a little bit more after you completed them?
Yes, because, and I tell, and this is with every story. I leave a piece of me in every story I write, and it just seems like, because I am usually writing about a traumatic experience with somebody that kills. I maybe kind of like that piece of me with them, and it's constantly on my mind. Like, okay, it's mainly because it's like, what if? And it's like, what if? What if this happened? Would she have been different, or would it have been different, or had their trauma been just a little less? Would it still, you know? Again, it's the reason why they're doing it, and it still sticks with me. Like, From the Window sticks for me still to this day, and that's why I took the time out to re-edit it, because I think it's such a good story and a trauma story that I was like, okay, I want people to like it as much as me, and I still go to bed thinking about like the actions and stuff that was taking that story.
When you said that you leave a piece of you in every story, I was just thinking again about Sean's story and thinking about how that piece of you may no longer be connected to your body. Sorry, that just.
Wow, I am going to have to pick up Sean's book now, and it's on my TBR, like things I want to read. But now it's kind of like went up to the top just so I can get that paragraph.
Yeah.
All right, for everybody else, how about that? How long does it linger for you all?
Well, when I finished Stone Baby, I was very glad that the story Stone Baby, because it was a very dark and nasty place to be for like 3 months of my life. I was very glad. And when I got finished Stone Baby, I wrote something fun. That was just a way to get out of it. But as for most stories, once I'm done, I'm done. I'm pretty much, I'm really, really done with the story, I'm on to the next, whatever story I'm going to be doing. Yeah.
I'm curious, is that how the torture of Jake Istenhedge is born? Is that you move on to torturing that poor soul?
That poor soul. Yeah. Yeah, that, and also just, deadlines. So
Is he the fun you were referring to?
He is my fodder. Well, back when I was writing the J.K. Shinheji stuff, yeah, he was just great fun to torture. I don't know why, but he was just good fun. Just what? How else can
You know
I
what?
make this boy a chew toy?
I just wrote the most personal story I've ever wrote in my life. Now, Jake, I'm going to put you through hell.
I'm gonna put you through hell, Jake. How can I possibly rip out your heart, give you love, and take it away?
Poor guy.
I know. It was great fun, though. It was a lot of fun. It's just pulp. I mean, pulp stories are that way. You can just your main character is a chew toy, and but at the end, he almost gets what he needs, and then I rip it away. So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. How about for everybody else?
I don't.
Yeah,
think
sorry, go ahead.
You too.
I don't think I linger in serial killer stories any more than I do in any other book. I mean, writing villains is my happy place. So, I mean,
that's cool.
I mean,
Writing villains is my happy place.
It is. It is.
I understand.
I enjoy writing the villains far more than the heroes. The heroes are boring.
Yeah,
I mean, they're necessary, but they're boring. So I mean, I don't have an issue coming out of a serial killer story. Probably less so than I do coming out of, say, something that's a little happier, because it's harder for me to get into the happier place than it is for me to get into the villain place. So I'm probably the opposite of everybody else coming out of a nasty story. It's like, it's over. Oh.
Stone Baby was now. I was glad.
You reward yourself with a bowl of ice cream and some chocolate or something, after you murdered 700 people or whatever your body count is for that particular story.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good when you murder an entire village. What can I say? Fictionally,
Julie.
Well, I guess, okay, I'm interpreting it a little different, the question maybe, but I think my serial killers stay with me because I love them, because I put a lot of effort into making them human and making them, like, they're going through a real character development. But especially my new detective, she's not nice, and she's not, like, so I guess I love her too. So maybe all my characters stick with me, but of all the books I've written, I've mostly written serial killers. The ones that are not, they maybe do stick with me less, just because the amount of research that goes into creating the serial killer is a lot for me. And so I think maybe they stick with me, not in a bad way, they stick with me because I'm really happy with how they came out and the reactions I'm getting and how much effort I put into it. But I have to be careful. Like, I was on a forest walk with my husband, and I was talking about the final scene in this new book, and he's like, can we just, like, talk about anything else? I was like, oh. And so I'm like, I relate to what you guys are saying, because I'll just be like, oh, and then this happened, and then this. And I don't realize what that sounds like to people that aren't reading and writing this stuff all the time. And he's just like, he knows me, but he's like, oh, no. I'm like, okay, this is good, because clearly this final scene is really, really that bad, which is good, right? So...
Oh, my children will tell me,
Anyways.
no true crime at all, no murders at all at the dinner table tonight, okay? God, now what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? So, yeah.
Sean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, thinking about the ones that I'm working on, the one killer, in theory, spoiler, is probably going to get what's coming to him, hopefully in a really interesting way. But if I'm thinking about Alana, who's in Sirocco, the story Joe's mentioned a few times, I mean, yeah, she in a different world, Alana would be a monster, right? And I think that, but it's not a different world. She's found her calling, right? And so I think that people love Alana. They love my character. So I think that in her case, more, and there will be more Alana coming. It really depends on the character, I think, right? If for characters that you like, you don't necessarily have to leave them behind or push them into, or purge them, as it were. But I think that how you write it, like, if I'm not satisfied with the fate of a character, I'm going to rewrite that character. So the writing of the character is the process of purging for me, right? And so once that's done, I'm moving on to the next thing. So. But then I generally have a pretty emotionally detached view in life in general of a lot of things as well. So I think that comes through in my writing and comes through in my characters and comes through in my process.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the next thing, I have one last fun question for you all. Are you fairly convinced that you've met a serial killer in real life? And I'm sure we'll all answer that one yes, but do you think maybe possibly you've sold a book to a serial killer in your time as an author?
Considering all the book festivals I've been to, yeah. Science fiction, yeah. Definitely. There's a lot of wackos at some of those places.
Yeah. Deep South cons, yes, I can
oh my God.
A lot of
oh my
wackos.
God. I would not be surprised if someone, especially from my high school days, became a killer, either a serial killer or just plain old killer. I'm trying to think if any of them.
Odds are pretty good, aren't they? I mean,
very good. I mean, I knew a guy who was this. He was okay. In my gaming group, way back in the day, he was the sweetest. He was the nicest. He was the smartest of us all. And he ended up raping 2 women and trying to murder someone else because he thought he was in hell, and he had to kill these people to get back to his real place because he had a psychotic break. And I never in a million years would I thought he'd be the guy who would lose it. And sweetest guy ever. Who knew?
Yeah. I think I don't know about the sold one. Maybe that's a maybe. But have I met one? Do I know people who were capable? I mean, I knew someone who I was sure was going to be, or for many years he was a friend of mine, and he turns out as far as I know, he didn't cross that line, but the capability is there. But in my friend group, you should know, I'm the one who's deemed the most likely to be a serial killer. So maybe you all have met one. I don't know.
Yeah, probably some of my neighbors in the rural area where I grew up could have been a serial killer or their relatives. There's a good possibility because some of them were a little inbred sort of type people.
Inbreed.
No offense to my area because most of the people were very nice. There was just a few.
Understand. There's always a peacock family.
So yeah, some of them probably ended up some of them ended up in jail for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's possible serial killers there. As far as selling a book, I wouldn't have any idea, but it's the probabilities are probably high. So yeah.
Yeah.
Julie, Tiffany?
I think both those things are possible, but I don't know. I mean, I've met people that I observed certain behaviors that concern me, but I never thought about this when I'm selling books. Now
that's all you're going to think about, isn't it?
I am thinking about this. Yeah, but I mean, you know what? If you do, you do, because like it's not like you know for sure, and it's not like my book is the only material like that. I mean,
they're going to be caught with your book in his back pocket. You know, he's been reading and underlining and getting all kind of ideas. Yeah. Oh, I don't need that kind of stress.
I should do this, yeah.
Is it wrong for me to say you should be so lucky to have that happen to you?
Your Amazon rating would go up so high. Right, ding, 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 ding.
All of a sudden, you're in Hollywood taking a meeting about making a movie out of your book, right? I mean, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I'm almost positive I came across a serial killer because I can say with certainty I came across a few killers. And as far as selling a book, I don't think I have.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the epilogue. I know a few of you haven't played before, so this is our epilogue. I am now donning a literary character.
Okay. Character.
And yes, it's a character. I will give you that freebie. I will not give you any more freebies here today. We're going to do a game of 20 questions, and basically they're yes or no questions, and You get one guess and one guess only as to who I am. You can invoke your guess anytime you want. You can wait till all 20 questions. You can do it early if you think you know the answer. And if you guess out and we're still asking questions, you're still allowed to ask questions. You just can't guess again. And the way that we're working it is I'm going to let each of you ask me one question to start. So I'll go down the line. Anita, Nikki, Julie, Sean, and Tiffany, and then it's free for all after that, and I'll keep track of till you guys get to 20 if you get there. So far, Sean, have we fooled anybody yet this season? I don't think so. I think everybody's guessed by the time.
No, they didn't get last time I did it. They didn't get.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good on you, bud. All right. Finally, we win one. All right.
I know.
All right. So, Anita, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Are you a human being?
Yes.
Are you female?
Yes.
Do you have a victim type?
No. Well, that's a tough question.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the reason after.
Okay.
Are you a 21st century character?
Yes.
You have a book and a movie about you.
Not movie. Book, yes. Well, no, there was no movie. Sorry. You guys are all welcome to just now ask me questions. I won't go down the line anymore.
Okay.
So you guys can just alert them out if you want.
Are you American?
Yes.
Are you alive still? Were you? So that's a. Were you
In
based
the
on
context of
records?
in the context of the universe? You mean? No.
Okay.
They're not a real person.
It's just a character. Okay.
Yeah. But in the context of their universe, no, they're not alive.
Okay.
Were you part of were you part of an agency?
Yes.
Are you currently a ghost?
Yes. I mean, ghost is probably a strong word for that, but yes.
Some sort of undead thing, then.
Not undead, but supernatural, more likely. Yes.
Ooh.
And again, I'll explain that at the end too. I probably won't have to if you guys get it who it is.
Supernatural. Blah blah blah.
You're at 9 all. Got plenty of questions
God.
left.
Do you die during the book?
Yes.
I have no clue.
I mean, either I'm completely lost. Okay.
Does the story take place in a real place on Earth?
Yes.
In America. Is it New York
Yeah.
City?
No.
Is it West Coast?
No.
So you must. Is it the middle? Midwest?
No. You just
But it
wasted 5 questions, Nikki.
I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I have no idea. I'm not a clue.
Is your book a standalone?
No.
Ooh. Okay.
Is your book a romance in any way? Not just
Yeah,
there could be romantic elements, but would it be
really
a
disgusting,
romance
but yes,
genre type?
It's really disgusting, but yes, it is.
Oh God.
Are you a vampire?
No.
All I
more
gotta
questions.
say is, I don't know what book this is, but now I want to read it.
Yeah,
You
desperately.
probably have.
Oh,
2 more questions. Unless Nikki has a guess.
no, I think maybe
That's
but I
doesn't
can't
count
think of
as
the.
a book.
No, I don't know. Are you a witch?
No.
Damn. Okay, sorry. Had an idea there, but it went nowhere.
1 more question. And then you'll have to guess. I know you all are being very calculated with
I
this
have
one
not a
question,
clue.
but you guys, if you don't have it now, you're not going to have it. So you might as well just throw a question.
Somebody else throw a question. I'm not going to waste another question. It was me.
Are you somebody from Twilight?
No.
Ew.
All right.
What is it?
Anita, who am I?
I have no idea. I'll go with Anita Blake series.
That's what I was thinking too.
Nope.
Damn it. Oh God, is it one of those Court of Rose and Thorn things?
No.
Damn.
It's
Okay.
well, I mean, okay. It may not be ultra famous, but it's famous for one reason.
Okay. I had not a clue. And I'm anxious. I want to know what it is. What is it?
Julie, do you want to guess?
I have no idea. I'm so lost.
Oh, come on.
Come on, y'all have. Sean, you want to guess?
No, I have no idea. I don't have any idea of the character. I mean, I have some idea of like the genre, but I have no specific idea.
It's not the girl with the dragon tattoo, right?
It's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's make sure.
That was last week, by the way. That was last
Oh,
week.
damn. I missed it. See, I would have won. Okay. No clue. No. I have no.
I think Anita Blake would have been my guess as well.
That's what I was thinking.
Wait a minute, isn't there a...
Tiffany, do you want to guess?
Come on, it's up to you, Tiffany.
Who I am?
Do it, baby.
I am stuck on the romance that's disgusting, and I can't.
It's really,
So
it's
many
really- it's
So
really
many
good.
romances that are disgusting. But go ahead.
are popping in my head, and
It's
I
gross
don't
to
know.
me. I mean, it might not be gross to
Oh
people
my
like
God!
you,
Is it some weird
but
monster?
it's gross to me.
Okay. I don't know.
Sean, you can't give it away. I'm about to add it to the...
I don't know. Is it the one that the girl that likes to love a shark or whatever?
Like a Chuck Tingle. Okay.
All right, you motherfuckers. I am Deborah Morgan
I do know who that is. Who's Deborah Morgan?
Oh,
from Dexter. Dexter.
Oh!
She dies very horribly in the books, and she does
Right.
terribly worse in the movie in the TV show. It wasn't a movie; it was a TV show. That's why. I was,
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
threw
yeah.
me.
and yes, they do have sex in the books. Dexter and Deborah do.
Yeah.
So-
Wait a minute.
Ooh.
Ew.
Isn't
Yeah.
that adopted?
What's that?
Aren't they? Well, they're both adopted, right? Or he's
Right,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but
still,
still.
ew.
And he's in love with her throughout. He's much more in love with her in the books than he is in the.
I should have got that. I feel I need to hang my head in shame.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've told everybody.
You did, because I have not a clue. Sorry.
Let's go.
I suck. Okay.
I thought Sean almost had it with his questions, but
I was
All
getting
right.
there. Yeah.
all right.
All right.
So before I let everybody tell everybody where they are at, I have to say something today. So I came across something that really bothered me a little bit this week. For those who don't know, I was telling everybody off air that I was going to do this. But this week, Jimmy Kimmel is a friend of the left, you could say, I guess. He's probably the one talk show that the left can the left side of politics and the liberal side of politics and everything like that. And he had on a band called Knocked Loose, who are a screamcore metalcore band. Do most of their vocal harmonizing through screaming, and they did a song that collaborated with another screamcore band called Poppy, and the lead singer's name is Poppy. And it triggered a ton of people to comment about how this noise should never be allowed on television, that screaming is not music, and whether you agree with that or not, the thing that really bothered me was that they were calling for Jimmy Kimmel to be canceled, to boycott Jimmy Kimmel, unless he came on and publicly apologized and would never have bands like that on his air again. For those of you who don't know who Knocked Loose is, their band is up and coming. They're really becoming very popular, but they are a young band who struggled for a very long time. So I find it in my indie heart to say to those of you who might have this opportunity to be on Jimmy Kimmel or something like that, because of what you do and who you are, especially with today's show, that, I think, I think, yes, we have cause to worry about the future. We definitely do. And everybody has the right to feel the way they do. They're validated by their feelings. And I don't have a problem with that. Well, where I think you step over the line is that you're asking for boycotts and things of that nature. And, Jimmy Kimmel has a right to put on whoever he wants on his show. It's his show. And I worry about all of you every single day. There's a lot of you that I'm concerned for the rest of the future. And believe me, I'm going to stand in front and take as much as I can away from you. I can't be there all the time. But we can't eat our young either, okay? So I love you, baby reindeer, but it's time for some tough love. So do me a favor, take your self-driving Tesla car out of autopilot for a second, turn off the central heat and air, roll down the windows, feel the nature of the air blowing through your skin and your hair, and drive onto a hillside on a dirty metropolitan street where there is only one option to parallel park, and give yourself an option to try that for once in your life. Once you figured that all out, jump into the backyard party that you're parking for, swig from the keg hose, and jump into the mosh pit, take a couple elbows, taste your own blood, and then step away, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. When you open your eyes, you're going to realize that you're still here. And you lived a little, and now you have a cool story to tell. So do that for me, please, because I think it's important that we all understand that we're a lot stronger than we think we are, and we're tougher than we think we are. And little nonsense like this, it's just nonsense. I mean, it's stupid. We have much more bigger battles to fight. Let's not kill the people that are fighting those battles with us. Okay, there is a common enemy out there, and let's take them on instead of taking each other on. That's what they want. That's what they want to divide us. They want to have us infighting, and let's not do that. Okay, that's my little rant there. So that being said, I just want to tell everybody where they can find you. So Tiffany, tell everybody where they can find you at, please.
First of all, I just want to say, just off of what Joe you said, Poppy is actually an amazing singer, and she has so much talent. So she got her start on YouTube. If you haven't, she's wonderful. Anyways, you can find me at booksbytiffanyvega.com and or outsiderpublishingcompany.com. We are actually doing a bunch of anthologies, so if you guys have any short stories that you want to submit to them, go ahead and check us out. You can find my books and our books all on Amazon.
Mr. Hillman?
I'm S.M. Hillman, speculative fiction writer, probably not a serial killer. You can find me at thewickedboys.com where I blog. You can find the Language of Skeptics on Amazon, also a link at the site. You'll find me here doing Zero Means You're Dead and Hit the Dice, and you also find me here specifically occasionally doing hosting duties and panelist duties. So yeah, check us out. Oh, and
Julie?
I was going to say, and the writing troupe on Facebook. I can't forget. I'm a moderator, so join us.
Awesome.
You mean when I'm not looking for bodies in the forest? Anyways, it's simple, killersanddemons.com, and all my handles are Killers and Demons.
Nice. Awesome. Nikki?
Yep, you can find me on pretty much all the social media. Look for Nikki Nelson Hicks or Nick Cubed, NIKCUBED. All my stuff's on Amazon. Look it up. I have finished Politics of Children. You'll be very happy to hear.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. You have no idea. I'm so sick of that damn story. But no, I finished it, and I am getting it's a collection of stories, because it's all based on revenge. And right now I'm shopping for, editors and things like that. But I'm very happy about that. And then when I get done with that, I am also working on a collection of stories called Put It Back. And it's a collection of horror shorts about pretty much Put It Back. And you can find me anywhere, and that's pretty much what I've got coming up in the future.
Awesome. All right, and Nia?
Well, you can find me on my website at afstewart.ca. All the social, the books, the merchandise, everything's there. You can also find me hosting the Shadows and Ink podcast for Crystal Lake Publishing on your favorite podcast app. And you can find me as the host of Words That Kill here on Go Indie Now as well. So
This is wrapping up, everybody. The final season is here, and we are counting down the days to the end. I am Joe Compton. This is Go Indie Now. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time here, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. Smash that like button, do the comment thing, share, subscribe, do all the wonderful things you do to help us get seen. It does help us get seen. If I didn't offend you enough with my rant, and if I did, well, nice knowing you. Thanks for being here. But other than that, thank you so much for you all. And I love you all. And remember that it's always time to go indie now. We got some great shows coming up, including tomorrow night. I'll be with Ariel Dawn on 21 Grams. So you want to check that out. And we'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye!
Bye.